Have you ever been laughed at for simply showing up as yourself? What if the very thing they mocked became the spark for a global movement? This is the story of a woman who wore her crown with pride and inspired the world to do the same. The lights were blinding. Cameras clicked like machine guns. Microphones jutted out like spears. It was fashion's biggest night, and all eyes were on the arrivals. Luxury gowns swept across velvet as influencers, actors, and fashion royalty struck poses in sequins and silk. Then she stepped out. Amara Blake, 27, actress, activist, and now target. She wasn't draped in diamonds or encased in couture. She wore a sleek, gold floor-length dress that shimmered with every step. But that wasn't what stopped the crowd. It was her hair, a proud halo-like afro, sculpted into the shape of a crown, defying gravity, tradition, and every unspoken rule of the red carpet. No lace fronts, no silky waves, no chemical straighteners, just a majestic monument of textured black beauty. The crowd hushed, not in admiration, but confusion. A reporter's forced smile cracked as she whispered into her mic, "A bold choice." Nearby, a stylist murmured, "She should have tamed it." It's the Met, not a protest. Paparazzi zoomed in, not to capture elegance, but to dissect. Commentators on fashion live streams hesitated. They didn't know how to describe what they were seeing. Words like wild, distracting, and controversial slipped from their mouths before they could catch them. And Amara felt every syllable like a pin to the heart. But she walked, chin high, shoulders back. Her afro didn't just sit on her head, it announced her. It said, "I belong here." A cluster of influencers posed beside her, smirking. One muttered under her breath, "Someone forgot to do her hair." Another giggled. The laughter was quiet, but piercing. Inside, Amara's stomach knotted. She had spent 6 hours preparing that style. 6 hours honoring her ancestors. Her late grandmother used to say, "Our hair tells the story they tried to silence." So she had chosen to wear her story like a crown. And yet, standing on that red carpet, surrounded by stares and scoffs, she wondered if she'd made a mistake. She hadn't come for war, but war had found her. Flashbulbs popped again. Her face, radiant but unreadable, would soon be on every blog, every reel, every gossip feed. But behind the still image was a truth they didn't know. That crown they mocked, it would soon change everything. By morning, Amara's face was everywhere, but not in celebration. "Red carpet's worst hair moments," screamed one headline. "She needed a comb, not a cause," sneered another. A viral clip showed a slow zoom on her crown, while a radio host chuckled. "I thought she came straight from Wakanda." The internet had decided Amara Blake was too much. She sat in her hotel suite, scrolling through a storm of comments. Her team had urged her not to. "Stay off your phone," her publicist warned. "Focus on your interviews." But how could she? Her name was trending, not for a new film or charitable work, but because she dared to wear her natural hair with pride. Why is she always doing the most? She could be so pretty if she'd just relax it. She's trying to make everything political. Even verified celebrities weighed in, calling her look divisive or off-brand for the elegance of the evening. Behind the gloss and glamour, the industry's mask was slipping, and the comments weren't just cruel. They were revealing. It wasn't just about hair. It was about who was allowed to take up space. Backstage at a press event, Amara's stylist, the same one who had sculpted her afro with pride and patience, avoided eye contact. Her makeup artist nervously suggested a softer look for the next appearance. Her publicist outright asked, "Do you want to switch to the wig for the Today Show? Just for optics." "Optics," Amara repeated under her breath, tasting the word like something bitter. She stared at her reflection in the vanity mirror, the same face they'd once called refreshing, the same coils her grandmother had once braided under the kitchen light while telling stories of pride and resistance. Now those same coils were being reduced to hashtags and punchlines. This wasn't just backlash. It was a cultural slap in the face, a reminder that no matter how talented, polished, or poised she was, Some would always see her hair as a rebellion instead of a birthright. Amara closed the makeup kit, stood up slowly, and adjusted her posture. Let them stare. Let them whisper. Let them laugh. They didn't know it yet, but they were about to witness the beginning of a revolution. The gala was over. The ballroom lights had dimmed. Champagne flutes lay half-empty on linen tables, and designer heels clicked down marble corridors toward limousines. But Amara sat alone on the edge of her hotel bed, still wrapped in the gold gown that had once made her feel invincible. Her phone buzzed again. She didn't even look. The screen was already burned into her mind. Hundreds of DMS, thousands of mentions, endless videos stitching her image with rolling eyes, sarcastic voiceovers, and hair makeover suggestions. What stung most wasn't the strangers. It was the silence from those she thought would speak up. Colleagues, activists, even her agency, which once championed her as a bold voice for inclusion, had issued a soft, non-committal statement. We celebrate all expressions of beauty. All? Apparently not hers. In the corner of the suite, a stylist's kit lay open. Inside was the emergency wig, a sleek, straight fallback. Just in case things get loud, they joked. Now she stared at it, her reflection doubled in the vanity mirror. The crown of coils she had sculpted with such care suddenly felt heavy. Maybe they were right. Maybe she was doing too much. Maybe it was easier to blend in, to bend, to bow. Her hand hovered over the wig, one tug, and it would all be over. The stares, the think pieces, the backlash. One tug and she could vanish back into the mold they preferred. Black, but polished. Confident, but not defiant. Visible, but not too visible. But just as her fingers brushed the synthetic strands, she paused. Her eyes met her own in the mirror. Not the public Amara, not the headlines, not the tweets. Just her. Raw, bruised, unapologetically human. And somewhere, from deep within the noise and numbness, her grandmother's voice whispered again, "Our hair tells the story they tried to silence." Amara pulled her hand away. "Number a knot tonight." She wouldn't silence herself just to make others more comfortable. Not again. Not ever. She sat back down, took a breath, and let the weight of it all wash over her. Not to break her, but to baptize her. Tomorrow they'd expect her to retreat. Instead, she'd rise. The next morning, Amara stepped onto the set of the Today Show. No wig, no sleek ponytail, no compromise. Her afro, defiant and radiant, was even bigger than the night before. Not because of volume, but because of conviction. Producers glanced at each other nervously as she entered. The host, Rachel Sykes, polished, diplomatic, and known for steering clear of controversy, adjusted her cue cards, whispering something to her assistant. They were expecting damage control, maybe an apology, maybe a polite nod to the moment and a pivot to Amara's new film. But Amara had other plans. The segment began with cheerful music, but tension hummed beneath the surface. Rachel smiled through her teeth. "Amara, thank you for being here. You've sparked quite a conversation online after last night's red carpet. Some are calling your hair choice controversial." Amara's expression didn't change. "I didn't know my hair was a choice," she said calmly. Rachel hesitated. Of course. What I mean is, the look was bold. Some felt it was too black." Amara finished for her. The air thickened. Producers froze. Rachel blinked. Amara leaned in slightly, not hostile, but firm. "Let me be clear. This isn't a costume. This isn't a trend. My hair isn't a disruption. It's a declaration of who I am, where I come from, and the beauty of what we've survived." Rachel tried to regain control. "So would you say you were making a political statement?" Amara nodded. "Every time a black woman walks into a room with her natural hair, that's seen as a political statement. But you know what? Fine. Let it be political, because policing our hair has always been political." She paused, looked directly into the camera. "This is for every little black girl who's been told she's unprofessional, unruly, or unworthy, just because she dared to love what grew naturally from her scalp. This crown is mine, and I wear it for all of us. For a beat, there was silence. Then, applause. From the crew, from the makeup artist, from viewers at home. Within minutes, the clip hit social media. By noon, it had over 4 million views. By evening, number Crown Up was trending worldwide. They had tried to shame her into silence, but Amara had turned their ridicule into a rallying cry. By midnight, it was more than just a viral moment. It was a movement. The clip of Amara's interview was being shared faster than the latest celebrity scandal. But this wasn't gossip, it was gospel. Her words, "This crown is mine, and I wear it for all of us," echoed across every platform, stitched into TikToks, quoted in tweets, and screen printed onto hoodies by the end of the week. Then came the hashtag #CrownUp. It started with a teenage girl in Atlanta, posting a selfie with her 4C curls fluffed sky high. Caption, "Didn't slick it down today, didn't hide it. Thanks at Amara Blake #CrownUp." Then a mother in Lagos shared a video of her twin daughters walking into school, beaming with their Bantu knots, their first time going without extensions. Caption, "Your crown is your pride. Crown up." From Paris to Port-au-Prince, Sydney to Soweto, posts flooded the timeline. Girls, women, and femmes of every age flaunting their natural hair like armor, like art, like truth. Afro puffs in boardrooms, sister locks at graduations, kinks and coils in the classroom, the courtroom, the cover shoot. Even celebrities who'd once kept their curls closeted began stepping forward. Talk show hosts wore twist-outs on live TV. News anchors opened segments with their braids. Grammy winners rocked Bantu knots on stage. It wasn't just a trend, it was freedom. Amara watched it all unfold from her living room, stunned. She had spoken from pain, not expecting a revolution. Her DMs overflowed with stories. A school in Houston that had once sent a girl home for distracting hair now declared a natural hair pride week. A job candidate in the UK shared how she wore her afro to an interview and got hired because she brought her whole self. A woman from the Caribbean wrote, "I'm 48 years old and just wore my natural hair in public for the first time in my life. Thank you for showing me it's more than hair. It's history." Amara sat back, eyes welling. They had mocked her for refusing to shrink. Now the world was standing taller, because she did. The movement was alive, global, untouchable, and that's exactly when the vultures came circling. Within days of Kirshur Crown Up flooding social media, the offers rolled in. A major fashion house, one that had once rejected Amara for being too urban, sent her a 7-figure deal to be the face of their new Heritage Hair campaign. The mock-up? A beige ad with models in half-done afros, looking more confused than empowered. A beauty brand known for selling relaxers tried to launch a natural line overnight, naming it Curl Royalty and using AI-generated coils on their bottles. Their pitch email to Amara included the line, "We love what you're doing for ethnic hair." Ethnic, not our hair, just ethnic. Even a fast food chain joined the wave, tweeting a picture of a burger with a puffed-up bun and the caption, "We're rocking our crown too. Crown up." Amara stared at her inbox, disgust growing by the second. She hadn't bled on that carpet just so they could bottle her struggle into a marketing slogan. This wasn't about trends or tokenism. This was trauma turned into triumph. And now they wanted to profit from it without ever acknowledging the pain it came from. Worse, many of these same companies had a history of discriminatory dress codes, policies against unprofessional hairstyles, or ad campaigns that had quietly erased natural black beauty for decades. They wanted the movement, but not the meaning. Her manager called, cautiously optimistic. "Amara, some of these deals could change your life." Amara's voice was steady. "They already have, but not the way they think." Instead of chasing checks, she called her lawyer and her stylist and 3 of the young women whose stories had moved her most. They met in her home the next day, not in boardrooms, but in hoodies and bare feet, sitting around her kitchen table. "We're not going to let them twist this into something it's not," she said. That night, Amara announced the launch of the Crown Collective, a nonprofit dedicated to protecting, celebrating, and educating on the history and power of natural hair. Workshops, grants, scholarships for stylists, legal advocacy for hair discrimination. If brands wanted in, they'd have to do more than cut a check. They'd have to stand with the crown, not just wear it. What started as a fashion moment had become a cultural firestorm, but now it was shifting into something even bigger: policy. Within weeks of the Crown Collective's launch, stories of discrimination poured in from all corners of the globe. A nursing student in Mississippi expelled for refusing to straighten her hair. A flight attendant in Paris told to fix her afro before takeoff. A 10-year-old boy in Johannesburg forced to shave his head before school pictures. Amara read every single one, and she did more than post hashtags. She got on the phone with lawmakers, with labor attorneys, with grassroots organizers who had been fighting this fight long before the world was watching. Together, they drafted proposals. They partnered with local governments, and soon they started winning. In New York, the city council passed the Crown Ordinance, explicitly banning discrimination based on natural hair in schools and workplaces. In London, a coalition of Black educators launched a nationwide campaign to update grooming policies in public schools, with Amara testifying via livestream. In Brazil, a bill protecting Afro-Brazilian hairstyles in the media gained traction after the Crown Collective sponsored a national ad campaign. With Amara's now iconic gold dress on the billboards, afro shining under the words, "This is not unprofessional. This is power." The momentum was unstoppable. For the first time in history, conversations about textured hair weren't just happening on social media or in salons. They were echoing through courtrooms, city halls, and board meetings. News anchors debated it. Universities taught it. Activists rallied around it. The word professional began to be redefined, not by whiteness, but by truth. Amara stood at the center of it all, not as a celebrity, but as a catalyst. She had gone from being mocked for her crown to becoming a symbol of what it meant to wear it without shame. At a press conference outside the U.S. Capitol, a senator stood beside her and announced federal legislation inspired by the movement, the National Crown Act. Applause erupted, but Amara didn't smile for the cameras. Instead, she looked down at the young girl beside her, rocking two proud puffs and a glittering crown up pin. "This," she whispered, "was always for you." Years had passed, but the photo still hung in the museum's central hall. Amara Blake on that infamous red carpet, chin high, eyes fierce, her natural hair haloed in the spotlight like a celestial crown. It was no longer called a fashion fail. Below the photo, the plaque read, "The night a crown sparked a movement." Inside the newly opened Crown Heritage Museum, funded by the Crown Collective and international supporters, visitors walked through the timeline of hair, history, and resistance. From the cornrows used to map escape routes during slavery, to the afros of the civil rights movement, to the number crown up era that changed how the world saw Black beauty. Amara, now grayer but no less radiant, sat quietly in the back row at the museum's dedication ceremony. She hadn't come for applause. She came for the little girls twirling through the exhibits in locks and twists, saying, "Look, Mommy, that one's like mine." She came for the stylists being honored, the teachers who rewrote their dress codes, the senators who turned pain into policy. She came for the movement, still growing, still rising. The final wing of the museum bore a quote etched in gold: "They mocked our crowns until they realized they couldn't break them." Later that day, Amara was approached by a young woman, mid-20s, camera slung over her shoulder, curls dyed violet and full of fire. "Ms. Blake," she said, eyes bright, "I just wanted to thank you. I got expelled in high school for refusing to wear a wig. But because of your fight, I sued, and I won. Now I'm a filmmaker, working on a doc about hair culture around the world." Amara smiled, tears prickling behind her eyes. "What's it called?" she asked. The young woman grinned. "Crown Up." Amara reached out, resting a hand on her shoulder. "Then finish it," she said softly. "Finish it like it matters. Because it does." As the sun poured through the museum's glass ceiling, it caught the edges of Amara's still defiant coils. Silver now, and just as powerful. Her crown never needed permission, and now generations wore theirs, not in protest, but in pride. And remember this, your crown isn't just hair, it's your story, your strength, your legacy. When they try to tear it down, stand taller, shine brighter, and wear it proudly. Because the world doesn't need you to change, it needs you to rise.